जय विष्णु भाद हंस परिवजाचार्य अष्टोदश श्रीमद शिला वैष्णव वृंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। निताय गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Jayapataka Swamini Namane. Namo Acharya Padaya Nidaya Kripa Padayane Gaura Kadadamadaya Nagar Gram Daline. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashadya Deshatarine Namo Maha... Sorry. I was going to offerings. So today we are reading from Canto 3 entitled Status Quo, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura, text number 14. Text 14, yes. We'll all do Mangal Charan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahiyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utthapada Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Mitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vangsha Kalpataru Vyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patithanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatem Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Text number 14. Iti uchivam shatatra suyodhanena pravriddha kopa spuritadharena asatkrita sat sprihaniya shila Kshatasa karananujasho valena Ityuchivamstatra suyodhanena pravriddhakopa spuritadharena asatkrita sat sprihaniya shila kshata sakarananujaso balena. Word for word. Iti, thus, uchivan, while speaking, tatra, there, suyodhanena, by Duryodhan, pravriddha, swollen with, kopa, anger, spurhita, flapping, adharanena, lips, asatkrita, insulted, sat, respectable, sprihaniya shila, desirable qualities, kshata, vidura, sa, with, karana, anuja, younger brothers, sobalena, with Shakuni. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charana Reverend Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. While speaking thus, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, was insulted by Duryodhana, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhana was in company with Karna, his younger brothers, and his maternal uncle, Shakuni. Purport. It is said that giving good counsel to a foolish person causes the fool to become angry, just as feeding milk to a snake only increases its venomous poison. Saint Vidura was so honorable that his character was looked up to by all respectable persons. But Duryodhana was so foolish that he dared to insult Vidura. This was due to his bad association with Shakuni, his maternal uncle, as well as with his friend Karna, who always encouraged Duryodhana in his nefarious acts. Jai. So here we are seeing the unpalatable state in which Vidura had to function. Usually we are all working in the material world as devotees, and then we find every now and then our work situation or of our family situation not becoming palatable. Here we can see Vidura, who is none other than Yamaraj himself. So in one sense we can see, when we look at this Canto 3 and 4, where there is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya, in one sense we can see that there is this is in sense the conversation between Yamaraj and a devotee of Krishna. Right? In one sense. We will see in Canto 6, I think it is, where Ajamil's story is there. I think it's Canto 6. In Canto 6, where the story of Ajamil is there, we see Yamaraj give instructions to his Yamadutas. Right? In that stage. Here the roles are reversed. Here Yamaraj is asking the questions and Yamaraj is listening to the glories of Krishna. Now, the story of Vidura, when we are trying to understand why his situation is such, is Vidura was previously in the sense is like originally Vidura's position was that of Yamaraj. And it so happened, I forget the name of the rishi, but it so happened that in one kingdom, some dacoits were being chased by the royal army of the king, and they were chasing these dacoits, these thieves, these robbers, and it just so happened that they chanced upon the hermitage of this rishi. Now the rishi, I don't know, I forget the name of the rishi. This is in Mahabharata, this story. Anyway, I forget the name of the rishi, but the rishi was sitting and he was meditating. And so these thieves and these rogues came and they took shelter of the rishi's hermitage. Now, at this time, the rogues had basically asked the rishi that our lives is at stake. So please do not tell the guards that we are here. And then they hid. So when the guards came, when the king's guards came there to the rishi, they asked the rishi, "Have you seen the dacoits?" And the rishi because he was meditating and he wasn't paying much attention, he said no, he had not seen them. Although, they had asked for shelter from the Rishi. But the Rishi felt, okay, I have not seen them. And so the guards still looked around. Now this is also another nature of Kshatriya. Kshatriya is so passionate that although the Kshatriya has been told that, when I say Kshatriya, meaning more administrative, like the passionate nature of administrative class. That, when the guards came there and they're saying, is anybody here? They said no. Still they went and they checked. They still investigated. This passionate nature. And then they caught the dacoits. And then they looked at the Rishi and said, surely this Rishi must also be a dacoit. Why would he give shelter to these robbers? Of course, the Rishi was not at fault. The Rishi was simply meditating and did not know what was going on, and did not have external cognizance of what was going on. But nonetheless, he got arrested. He was brought to the chamber. And so, there was still a court system, and in the court system, the king's guard presented that, see, this was the situation. This person was acting like a rishi. However, he was, giving shelter to the dacoits. And then the rishi goes, the judge listens, and then he pronounces that the rishi should be pierced with a spear, right? And the reason for piercing with a spear is, he was saying that, well, it's not good to kill a Brahmana. At the same time, we should make an example that Brahmana should not do such bad things. So then the rishi was, was pierced, and it was, kept in a place with a spear. At that time, when the king comes and the king sees that, a rishi, a Brahmana, is being punished, the king got very agitated. He immediately, called upon the guards, gave them a earful. He removed the spear from the rishi, and he begged for forgiveness. At this time, the rishi, he tells the king that, my dear king, this is not your fault, not at all your fault. This must be the fault of Yamaraj, because Yamaraj looks at good qualities and bad qualities, and tries to see that punishment is awarded equally. So I'm going to go to Yamaraj, and I'm going to find out why this particular situation occurred to me. Now we can appreciate this rishi's position. The rishi was meditating. He was in a transcendental state. Yet he gets picked up and he gets pierced by a spear. So, it's a very hurtful state. So the rishi wanted to know why this happened. And this is true for most of us. Many times when something bad happens to me, I start thinking, what must I have done in my previous life? You see, I immediately position the fact that I'm in a bad state to my previous life, because in my current life I'm a saint. So, this is normal human tendency. The heart works like that. So sometimes we feel, okay, why must this have happened? So this rishi felt the same. So he went to Yamaraj and he said, my dear Yamaraj, you are one of the main keepers of karma. So I want to know from you, why is it that I was pierced? Right? I've been meditating, I have lived a good life, so can you please explain why? So Yamaraj, he opened up the books written by Chitragupt. Chitragupt writes all the karmas, good karmas, bad, all activities done by human beings. And he opens the book and he says, yes, I can see here that when you were a young boy, you'd taken a blade of grass and then you had pierced the ants and you had split their bodies. So as punishment for that, and you had done this to many ants, many ants. So as a repercussion, as a punishment for that, you got pierced by a spear. So listening to this, the rishi did two things. First is he gave a benediction. The benediction he gave was that, and of course this age keeps varying. Some people say 12, some say 14, some say 13, so the number varies, but in the book that I have read, I have seen the age as being 14. That up till the age of 14, a child is not responsible for his karma. Right? So like I said, the age may vary. I mean, in some cases, it's 12. I remember the age was 14, but so just think of it between 12 to 14, the age range. So it is explained that, up until this point, the child does not get a karma. Right? The karma is all taken up by the guardians. Either the parents or the teachers, the guardians take the karma. So that is one benediction. Then he chanced upon a curse, and he said, "My dear Yamaraj, how can you punish somebody when somebody on an act they have done without fully understanding the consequence?" So this is the aspect of innocence. And he's saying, because you have done such a thing, you are to be born as a Shudra, and you are to be put in a position, in a position where you are innocent. You will be innocent, but you will be surrounded by people who will keep troubling you. Right? So this is the state in which Vidura is functioning. So Vidura is functioning in a state where he is a nice person. He's a position, he is Yamaraj himself. Nonetheless, he is surrounded by people who are not favorable to Krishna consciousness. Rather not even favorable to good deeds. Like forget being Krishna conscious, forget being a devotee of Krishna, not even being favorable to good deeds. So this is Vidura's curse, and this is Vidura's burden that he must carry. And so this appreciation of Vidura, his state first has to be accepted. That Vidura was a highly qualified person, but he was in a situation which was not very qualified. And so this is our state in the material world. Actually, we are spirit souls. So we are extremely qualified. As spirit souls, we are extremely qualified. But because we have decided to come and stay in the material world, we are in an unqualified state. Right? So when we see Vidura, we see here is Yamaraj, here is, a Vaishnava, a Mahajan. Nonetheless, he comes into a state of, disrepute. And so Vidura, to some extent, people would also criticize Vidura to say that, Vidura could have been more vocal, Vidura could have done more to, stop Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. But the factual reality is because of the way he was cursed, his situation was such. So then, of course, Yamaraj gives up his post. He takes birth here in the, in the Shudra family, and we will see that these are, his birth, his deeds are what are used to criticize Vidura. So what that means is sometimes you are doing a good deed, right? So you might be cleaning the temple, you might be part of temple operations and doing activities. So you are doing a deed. Now the very same deed that we are doing can be used to criticize us. All you do the whole day is just roam around with a mop. What are you actually doing for the temple? You see? The act that is our devotional service can be used against us. Right? Oh, that's all you do. There is no other contribution you have to the yatra. Or there is, whole day you're spacing out, just do a little bit of cleaning and then you just go to sleep. So the very act that can be used for our glorification can also be used to denounce us. Okay, the same act. Usually, somebody may come and say, "Oh, he's such a nice devotee, he always cleans the temple." See? So that act, the act that we do is used as glorification. The very same act can be flipped and used as denouncement. Oh, that's all you do. You don't do anything. When I ask you to do something else, you don't do it. So, you see? So this is what is happening with Vidura. In Vidura, he is doing a good deed, and his deeds are actually, quite glorious. If you look at it retrospectively, his deeds are very glorious, right? Because we have the advantage of reading the full Mahabharata, right? And so when you read the full Mahabharata, you can see, oh, this person's position is glorious. So what this means is when you take a step back and you observe the complete deed, right? The complete deed from start to the finish, you can say, oh, okay, this act was glorious. But when you are in the moment, right? In the moment, where somebody may be shouting, oh, what are you doing? In that moment, one cannot see whether there is, infamy or fame. That is why Krishna tells Arjuna that, my dear Arjuna, you must not act, you must not try every moment to think about infamy and fame. Rather, you must do your duty. You must do your dharma. And fame and infamy will come and go. Jitatmanaha prashantasya paramatma samanhita Sitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Tatha Mana Apamana Yo. So mana or apamana. Mana means when you are given glory. Apamana means when you are, that's, same thing can be used as a contradictory point to, denounce you. So here, Vidura is going to see that state for him. He's going to see this flip. Now the good thing here is, what does Vidura do with this denouncement? At this point, Vidura decides that enough is enough. So let us, what we have done so far is we have understood how Vidura came into this state, and although Vidura had very good character, obviously because he was Yamaraj, he had very good character, nonetheless, he is in a state where he gets insulted. So, iti uchi vamsa tatra suyodhanena. Now here's something interesting, that in Bhagavatam, you will see that Duryodhan is always called out as Suyodhana. Not always, I would say in most of the times he's either called king or Suyodhana. Right? So Suyodhana is, in one sense, Duryodhana, the word Dura usually means, that which is, that which is harsh or rare. Right? Durlabha. That which is rare or harsh. Right? The Duryodhana, I think Duryodhana means a rare warrior, a rare type of person who can fight. But Suyodhana means one who does a good fight. So that's interesting. That, the name the play in his name. So you will notice in Bhagavatam, the few times that Duryodhana's name is taken, he is called Suyodhana. So he is not called Duryodhana. So that is an interesting point to pick up. And we will notice when Krishna, when Krishna enters Mathura and he kills Kamsa, he asks Akrura, my dear Akrura, can you go and visit Hastinapur, and can you tell me how my cousins are doing? Because now Krishna had come into the position of a Kshatriya, so he wanted to understand the law and order. So then when Akrura goes to visit Dhritarashtra and the residents of Hastinapur, there also you will see Akrura say, my dear king, your favorite son Suyodhana. So you will see this term Suyodhana being used. Right? So now, here's the interesting thing. Once Vidura's good advice is listened, right, Duryodhana gets very angry. So this is something we can understand from. Sometimes we are given good advice. But we get angry. Right? And we can get angry for various reasons. I can get angry because I'm thinking, I'm such a nice devotee. How this person can give me advice? So my own personal ahankar, like it happens to me many times. Many times, my own personal ahankar, I feel, why this person is giving me advice? I know what to do. Right? So there is that aspect as well. So we will see within our own side that when we get good advice, our own personal ahankar, or sometimes our situation, so we may be stressed. Right? So we are coming to the temple and we are feeling very stressed, and then somebody gives us an advice, no, you should not do this. That makes us angry. Right? And sometimes, we may be hurt. Right? So like I remember once we were cleaning the temple and one devotee was telling me, why this devotee is not helping us pick up the pot? I was like, Prabhu, he has slip back or whatever, slip disc. He has a slip disc. He can't pick heavy things. But you have to understand the situation as well. So sometimes these things happen. The idea here being is sometimes we may get good advice, but because of our personal ahankar or the situation we are coming in, or some inability. Sometimes we genuinely have an inability. If somebody told me, please go reach up to that, air conditioning. I'm like, I'm a short guy, I can't reach up there. So there is some, genuine inability. So for all of these reasons, sometimes a good advice that is given can cause anger in us. It can cause anger. Right? So Duryodhan, he was in that state that he would get, good advice from many people. In fact, if you see Mahabharata, you will see Duryodhan has been cursed by many people. Right? And the only reason he's been cursed is they've given him advice, he hasn't taken it. They said, okay, then you're cursed, you'll be destroyed. So, there is that angle as well, that when one gets good advice, if one doesn't take it, one invariably gets cursed. So there is that aspect as well. So we have to be careful in our dealings. That is why, when it is said that one should be careful in his dealings with devotees, there is a reason why that is said. And that I find interesting, that sometimes, I may get good advice, I'm like, I'm not listening to this. So invariably it turns into a curse. Because why is good advice being given? Krishna through someone, as Paramatma, is giving that advice. Let's see, if you do this, this is better. But then we cannot take it. I cannot take it. Oh, why are you advising me? So, I have been given an advice for my benefit. If I don't do it, what happens? I get disrepute. So, I get cursed. So, that aspect is also to be understood. So, here, Duryodhana is now, now he is agitated. Pravriddha kopa spurita dharena. Right now, he is pravritta, he is swollen up with anger. Because I have been given advice, I don't like the advice, I get angry. Now, one can understand why is it that Duryodhana is angry. Because Duryodhana wants to do an act opposite to the advice. So, see, there are three things we can do, right? When we get advice, we ignore it. Right? We ignore it. We are like, okay, the advice is there. I'm not able to relate to this advice, so I continue. So that is considered ignorance. That is in mode of ignorance. Because I'm ignorant. You gave me good advice. I'm like, oh, can't relate, don't understand. And then I continue. The second is, we are given advice, okay? And we are like, okay, let me do something else. I won't do what is being told. I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll do something else. And the third one is, when we are given advice, we do completely diametrically opposite to it. So Duryodhana is in that state. So Duryodhana's state is, you told me this, I'm doing something else. I'm going to do exactly opposite to what you're doing. So his anger swells up. So that's why he's saying pravriddha kopa spurita dharena. So it is explained here that his anger, his lips are trembling. And I don't know if some of you have felt this, but sometimes, sometimes if you're at work or when you were in school and you're playing with your friends, sometimes, there's a situation of fight. You can see your own lips are trembling. You're angry. Your body is trembling. You can feel that tremble. Then here, asad krita sat sprihaniya shila. He's saying that although in front of you is someone who's respectable, right? Vidura is a respectable person and desirable qualities. Sat sprihaniya. Sat sprihaniya means he has very good, he's respectable and he has desirable qualities. Nonetheless, because he's surrounded by his friends, right, he decides to insult Vidura. Now, this is interesting, that Duryodhana was not fighting back with Vidura on his own. You see, in the Pandavas, they would fight back, like Arjuna would fight back, armies. Arjuna would go to Swarga and he would fight back armies. He would do it on his own accord. But here you will see Duryodhana. Duryodhana understands that he, by himself, is not capable. So he is leveraging the strength of his surroundings. First, I have 99 brothers. That's the first thing, right? It is amazing that, imagine, just imagine for a second, that we have a temple where we have 100 people who are fully synced. Just for a minute, just imagine. 100 people who are fully synced. Imagine all 100 go out for books, just as an example, but whatever. 100 people who are fully synced. The administration of the temple will dramatically change. Like just dramatically change. Everything starts working. So Duryodhana has that state. He has 99 brothers who will do anything he says. So he has that state. Further, he has Shakuni, his own mama, his own maternal uncle. So the idea being that his father and mother both have, father is, naturally blind. Mother has taken forced blindness. So his parents are blind, right? But his maternal uncle can see. You see? So there is great love between the two. So, usually your mother's side is, you'll always know it's been father and mother. Mother always gives more love. My son, sometimes when I tell him, don't do this, He'll go to his mother for a cuddle. Oops. He will go to his mother for a cuddle. And so the reason why this happens is when you go to your maternal side, you feel love. So here, Duryodhan, the reason why he's so close to Shakuni is because Shakuni is his maternal uncle. So it is a representation of his mother. But he can see. And so he can, devise plans. So this closeness. So what is happening here is that he's getting maternal affection, but maternal affection that is visual. That, who can see the situation. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari are in a state where they love Duryodhan, they love him, but they don't have the ability to see. Right? So Shakuni, and then of course Karna. It was Duryodhan's greatest happiness when he saw Karna enter the assembly hall and challenge Arjuna to a war. He was very happy. There is a beautiful article written by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu where he says the son of sun. I think that's what the name of the article is. I don't remember exactly, but it was a play on the word sun, the son of sun, about Karna and how many people feel that Karna was a great warrior. But actually, if you look at Mahabharat's history, that Arjuna and Karna, I think, fought a few times, and every time Arjuna defeated Karna. Before Mahabharata, like before the actual, main war. And even Bhima has defeated Karna. So that's quite interesting. Of all the people, Bhima defeats Karna. So that's interesting. But here Karna, when Duryodhan saw Karna come in and said, here is a personality who can challenge Arjuna, immediately he says, now I have battle. Because he says, I can fight Bhima, not a problem. Dhritarashtra can fight Yudhishthira. Because as long as Dhritarashtra is there, Yudhishthira will not do against. So you see, he had all his pieces in place. Dhritarashtra is the counter to Yudhishthira. I am the counter to Bhima, and Karna is the counter to Arjuna. Now we are ready. Right? Now the battle can begin. So with Karna there, and the interesting thing is you will see this word Karna repeat in the future shlokas where it is talking about the ears. Alright, the ears, like the insult that came into the ears of Vidura, he used that as as the weapon to leave this in unfavorable position and go for spiritual journey. And this is interesting to appreciate that Vidura was in an unfavorable state while he was engaged in the material world. His way of dealing with that state is to take another unfavorable state. We will read how Vidura was doing his austerity. He takes another unfavorable state, but this time it is a spiritual environment. So what this means is when you take to devotional service, it doesn't mean things will become favorable. It doesn't mean now things are going to be very nice, Prabhu. No. You were in a bad state, you'll probably be in a bad state here as well. But here, your bad state is counted as austerity. See, when we are dealing with the material world, our bad state is our karma. When we are in the spiritual dealings, our bad state are austerities. And so what happens is it increases our punya. It increases our good qualities. I mean, I use the word punya. Punya is not the right word. It increases our akarma, right? So that we can become more engaged in Krishna consciousness. So that is interesting. So I will end here. It is 8:35. This is a very small shloka, but we will see into the journey of Vidura. Just to summarize, like what I said was, Vidura is actually Yamaraj. So here the questions and answers are one in which Yamaraj is actually asking a devotee of Krishna about Krishna. So that is one thing to understand. And then second is that Vidura's situation was unfavorable always, and so we are also in the material world, we will have an unfavorable state. And then finally, if we see from Duryodhan that sometimes we may get advice, we may have multiple ways of dealing with advice, and usually if we go directly opposite to an advice is as good as getting a curse. So that was it. Prabhu, you want to share something?
Just wondering, thank you for the class. You recently talked about advice.
Vices. I have advices.
Sometimes we may feel the need or urge to advise other people.
Yes.
And we ourselves may not follow.
Yes.
We are in that situation.
Yes.
Same as us.
Yes.
So how can we control this urge of
No, I don't think you need to control. It depends on what your position is. So for example, let's say, you are leading temple cleaning. Just as an example. Today is temple cleaning day, you are leading it. Now you may not be the world's best cleaner. So we have to state that fact. You may not be the world's best cleaner. In fact, if I was to run into your room and just, open your cupboard, I'll know how clean you are. Nonetheless, you have been given a position where you need to clean something. So you must give advice. And you must be prepared to give advice. So what this means is, when you come into a position where you need to lead an act, then there is nothing like I must curb the urge to advise. No. You must find the method of giving the right advice using the right mood. So you have to become like a coach. Like sometimes when you hear sports coaches, like, recently India won this World Cup. So they were asking the coaches, how did you coach the team? Because, they were saying this, never has it happened that a team started with 11 players and played with some other 11. Like they were giving a lot of, big shebang about, this is the best, victory and all in the cricket match. And there they asked the coaches that, how did you give advice? You have to give advice, right? Now you're thinking, well, this guy has been playing really well. Why should I give him advice? Should I stop the urge to advise? But no, that is their Brahmanical position. So they were explaining how they were trying to figure out to give advice in such a way that it works. So yes. Now your point is, if let's say one doesn't have a position, one doesn't have a relationship. So, sorry, we missed the second part. If you have a relationship also, you can give advice. Even though you are not following. If I come up to you and say, Prabhu, I have diabetes. You should say, Prabhu, you shouldn't avoid sugar. You may not be avoiding sugar. Right? But in a relationship, that is allowed. Because it's a relationship. Right? However, if neither there is relationship nor there is position, that means there is no degree of nearness. If there is no degree of nearness, then one may give advice, which is what Twitter and Facebook is for. So, Twitter and Facebook, you can give as much advice as you want, right? I believe this. I believe that. Right? So, that's what Facebook and Twitter is for, to give advice. Right? But then you will notice that many will not take advice, and somebody may take contraposition to your advice. So, that is true. But at least in the temple and with devotees, my opinion is that somehow one has a position to give advice. Somehow one does have a position. It's a question of how one gives advice. Like, do you remember that Gopal Guru? He's giving advice to Lord Chaitanya. One may consider, right? He's a young kid. Why is he giving advice to Chaitanya, who is, none other than Krishna? But he's giving. So he says, you become Guru. See, the Lord Chaitanya's reaction is you become Guru. Now, so the idea also here is that the recipient needs to understand that there is a relationship. Right? So, one thing I personally tried is when I'm in the temple, I've tried. And I would say I have succeeded 10% and failed 90%. I will try that, okay, I'm here. I should listen to advice. Of course, like I said, the nature is such that I'm not going to do what you say. So, nature, human nature, my nature is I'm not going to do what he says or they say. However, that feeling should be there that, okay, this is advice, it is good for me. At least if that appreciation is there, that there is advice, it is good for me, I'm not able to follow, at least if one gets that mood, that is good. So, in your thing, like usually we focus a lot on how to give advice, but we also need to start focusing on how to receive advice. You see, and I think when we see that, like I said, then you will just imagine that you have 100 people who will, work in sync. That's a really amazing thing. This one, Chopati temple, when they do, Srila Prabhupada's Trayobhava, so they go to Vrindavan and they serve prasadam. So I saw them serve prasadam to lakhs of people. So I was standing in line, we had the tickets. So the system that they have set up to serve prasadam, and I'm not talking about giving khichdi and a pickle and saying go, and one papad and go. No. Full on prasadam, right? You have also had the feast. They'll give you gulab jamun, rice, dal, chapati. It's proper, like a proper feast. But then giving it to lakhs of people and the method. Right? So that's what I was thinking when I was saying that. Imagine there is, Duryodhana has, 99 brothers who will do exactly what he wants. So instead of thinking Duryodhana, we can think Suyodhana. Right? Okay, I have so much ability, I get everyone in sync and they will work. So yeah, actually one should give advice. We should not discourage from giving advice. I mean, the whole point of being a devotee is to get advice. We are doing Bhagavatam class for it. Like everything is advice based. So yeah. Jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari. Right now I was doing Namo Vishnu Padaya and then I'm like, Namo Brahmanya Devaya. I'm like, why am I offering prasadam? That was funny. Namo Brahmanya Devaya. Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha.